The moment I put on the bracelet, I felt it tighten around my wrist. At first, I thought it was just snug, but then it kept squeezing. I tried to pull it off, but it wouldn't budge. That's when I realized I shouldn't have taken the gift. It all started when my uncle, Uncle Gok, came back from the city. He wasn't just any uncle, he was the rich one, the one everyone respected and envied. He had built a big house in our village and always brought gifts when he visited. That day, he came unannounced, like he often did, and everyone rushed to greet him. He carried a shiny black bag, and we all gathered around, hoping he'd brought something for us. "I have something special for you, Abeni," he said, looking directly at me. I was surprised. Uncle Gok rarely paid attention to me. I was just the quiet niece who kept to herself. He reached into his bag and pulled out a beautiful gold bracelet. It sparkled in the sunlight, and I couldn't take my eyes off it. "Take it," he said, placing it in my hand. "It's from the city. Very expensive." I hesitated. Something about the way he looked at me felt off. His smile didn't reach his eyes, and there was a strange sharpness in his voice. But my mother nudged me. "Say thank you," she whispered harshly. So, I smiled and said, "Thank you, Uncle." That evening, I decided to try on the bracelet. As soon as I clasped it around my wrist, it felt cold, almost icy. I thought it was just the metal, but the coldness spread up my arm, leaving goosebumps on my skin. "It's just my imagination," I told myself. But then, something strange happened. I couldn't take it off. The clasp wouldn't open, no matter how hard I pulled. I tried twisting it, even asking my little brother to help, but it was like the bracelet had fused to my skin. That night, I dreamt of Uncle Gok. In the dream, he stood at the foot of my bed, holding the same black bag. His face was shadowed, but I could hear his voice. "Keep it safe, Abeni. It's yours now." I woke up sweating, the bracelet burning hot against my wrist. The next morning, I showed the bracelet to my grandmother. She was old and wise, the kind of woman who always had an answer for everything. When she saw it, her face turned pale. "Where did you get this?" she asked sharply. "Uncle Gok gave it to me," I replied. She grabbed my wrist and examined the bracelet closely. "This is not an ordinary gift, Abeni. You should never have accepted it." "What do you mean?" She didn't answer. Instead, she went to her room and came back with a small bottle of oil and a string of cowrie shells. She began muttering prayers, rubbing the oil on the bracelet. But nothing happened. It didn't budge. "Take it back to him," she said finally. "And don't wear it again." When I told my mother what Grandma said, she dismissed it. "Your grandmother is old and superstitious," she said. "There's nothing wrong with the bracelet." But that evening, strange things started happening. First, the chickens in our compound began acting strangely. They screeched and flapped their wings wildly, as if they'd seen something terrifying. Then, our neighbor's baby fell sick out of nowhere. People in the village started whispering that something was wrong in our house. And then, it got worse. I began hearing whispers at night, low and insistent, like voices speaking a language I didn't understand. I couldn't sleep, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw Uncle Gok's face. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I decided to confront Uncle Gok. I told my mother I was going to return the bracelet, but she refused to come with me. So, I went alone. When I reached his house, he was sitting outside, smoking a cigar. He looked surprised to see me. "Uncle, I want to return this," I said, holding up the bracelet. His expression changed instantly. His smile disappeared, replaced by a cold, hard look. "Why would you want to return a gift?" he asked. "It's causing problems," I said, my voice trembling. "I don't want it anymore." He stood up slowly, towering over me. You accepted it, Abeni. It's yours now. You can't give it back. But go home, he said sharply, cutting me off. And don't come back here. I left, shaking with fear. That night, I begged my grandmother to help me again. She agreed but said we would need help from the village priest. The priest came to our house the next day. He examined the bracelet and frowned. This is no ordinary bracelet, he said. It binds the wearer to the giver. Whatever power he used to create it, it's strong. He performed a cleansing ritual, using herbs and chanting prayers. The bracelet grew hotter and hotter, until I screamed in pain. Then, with a loud snap, it broke and fell to the ground. Uncle Gok left the village not long after that. Some people said he had been exposed, that the bracelet was part of something dark he was involved in. Others said he was too ashamed to face the whispers. I never saw him again. But to this day, I don't accept gifts lightly. Because sometimes, a gift isn't just a gift.